everybody. Season 5, Episode 5 of the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And we're back, baby. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been busy.
It has been a little hectic, but that's okay. It's good problems to have. Good problems to have.
Let's kick it off with an update. Last week, you and I were out at the Xenia show.
Yep.
Which has now expanded to 3 buildings.
Yeah, first time. Normally the third building is like the overflow area of the second building. It was 3 buildings. I didn't get to any of them. I didn't get away from the table at all. You got away for a little while.
I thought you were trying to trick me at first because there's no species of animal that I despise more than snakes. And they have a reptile show there every month too.
Yeah.
And I thought I was being sent in like it was going to be funny. Which wouldn't have been funny at all because I hate snakes.
So does my wife.
I hate snakes.
She won't even look at TV if it's on. She turns away.
It's fight or flight, and my body is like, I don't know which is going to happen. I've been known to hack them to pieces, and I've been known to freeze and tear over a gardener snake.
You never just picked up a snake?
Oh, God, no.
Gosh. You grew up in the country, too.
Yep. Spiders,
how do we have such different experiences growing up in the country?
Spiders have no impact on me. Spiders don't freak me out. Snakes, I can't stand them. I don't know.
Weird.
I live my life by this rule in regards to this. Like, if it's the one thing that Indiana Jones was scared of, I can live with that being in that company.
I'm the exact opposite, though. I can't stand spiders at all. Other bugs don't bother me a bit.
Yeah.
I can't stand spiders, but snakes?
Yep.
Yeah. Doesn't bother me a bit.
So Xenia show was really good. It was nice. You know, if you've been listening along, I've been running that eBay store for a long time. I'm on top of that trying to get showcases up and going again for shows. So it was my first run at that.
Yeah.
It was good. Hit my goal for the show, and some cool stuff walked up that sold right away, that's
always the best time.
That's the best time and the most unfun time for a collector, right?
Well, that's why you gotta detach as much as possible.
It's hard. What was the card that walked up? There was one that was a little bigger that I grabbed. For me, it was a little bigger, and it was the Mystery Redemption Skeens auto.
Yeah,
out of Bowman. It was really cool. I had it for less than an hour.
I say 45 minutes.
I
was
churned
gone.
a 10 or 15% profit on that, but they bundled it in with some others where I did a lot better. So it would have been cool to be staring at it right now, but no.
First time really behind the table for a whole show in about a year and a half?
Probably.
Yeah.
I've popped in from time to time to hang out, but
not really done it. Probably since Pittsburgh 2 years ago.
Oh,
really.
yeah. And the heavy buyers could smell blood in the water. They're like, who's that guy over Gary? He's not normal there. He's got a showcase. Oh, there's some decent stuff in here. You want to give me this at 50%?
Notice how that guy didn't come really talk to me too much.
No. What's funny is you were saying there's some really good consistent buyers that come in early on, and I wasn't knowing what to expect. So I'm just assuming every one of these people walking up were that person.
One of our people, yeah.
They weren't all that person.
They weren't.
So
it's okay though. You did all right.
Yeah, I did all right. I'm gonna say no more next time.
You got
to. I was like, get that cash rolling, get it going.
Yeah.
It was good overall. We do have massive hobby news. I think.
Yeah. Well,
maybe. It's not that big a deal. Well, it's not that
reverberative.
Surprising. Yeah.
Is that
Who
a
were
word?
the 2 guys in the Muppets? The 2 old guys.
I can picture them. I don't remember.
They're
their names.
up in the.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, that was good. Well, it wasn't bad. Well, it was okay. It kind of stunk.
Yeah.
Well, I hated it. But we do have some news that I think is pretty big deal. A big update coming up from the Panini and Fanatics saga. They've been going at it back and forth. Fanatics has been whipping their tail up to this point with licensing, with cornering the market, and Panini just had what I would consider a big win on the way out the door with this lawsuit in the state of New York. I'll let you break it down a little bit more, but essentially it's opened the door for some bigger conversations between the two of them.
Yeah, so we talked about this last season. Panini sued Fanatics, basically saying that they were a monopoly, and being very important note, being a monopoly in and of itself isn't illegal. Being a monopoly that price gouges or suppresses competition is illegal. So,
that's what a gray area.
Yeah, for sure.
Suppresses?
Yeah, for sure. I don't disagree, but it's an important part of this conversation. So Panini sued Fanatics, and then Fanatics countersued Panini for a few other things.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting part of this case was that this judge said, okay, there is enough merit to Panini's claims to allow this to go forward to trial.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, the judge dismissed all but one of Fanatics' counterclaims. And the only counterclaim that the judge allowed to go forward from Fanatics was that Panini threatened their own employees if they left to go work for Fanatics. And that is obviously not legal to do.
You could have a non-compete.
You could have a non-compete, but
They must have gone a little further than
they were. They did. So that's the only one on Fanatics' countersuit that was allowed to move forward. Now, what becomes really interesting in this case is a judge has decided that there's enough merit to the idea that Fanatics might be an illegal monopoly that it could open up a whole new world of potential competition in our space, which would be so great for all of us. I know that there's a small segment of the hobby who loves the fact that hobby boxes are insanely expensive, that sealed wax is crazy expensive.
Right.
The vast majority of us, yes, we want to have some valuable cards, but we still want to be able to open product.
Right.
We want to be able to have fun and it not cost us a kidney, it not endanger our ability to pay our bills every month.
So let's talk through a couple ways this might play out. So essentially a judge just said, yes, there is merit to pursue this conversation. So there's going to be a little bit of news out there. People are saying this means this means that. If you've been around anything like this before or ever followed dockets on this type of stuff, and I am no expert, but I do listen to a lot of podcasts.
Stayed at a Holiday Inn Express.
Yes, basically. But this does mean that like the conversation this is not like open and shut for Fanatics, move on. There's going to be some dialogue here. This opens the door for Panini to pursue this further. Let's talk through what we think could happen and what probably will happen. But when you mentioned it a little bit ago, like the cost of wax, what would it do to create a competitive market? I heard one take on this. I believe it was Sports Card Dad, so I want to give him credit for that.
Shout.
Yeah, he does always run like the latest news. Like he has stuff uploaded 20 minutes after it drops. But like, is there a world where because this can stalemate and because of some of the legal verbiage, like it's a double-edged sword. If Fanatics is found to have been doing these things Panini has accused them of, then most certainly Panini has been doing this thing that a judge found Fanatics guilty of having done.
Yeah.
And it could create an environment where until this stuff is figured out, now this is the most extreme example I can think of, but it is possible that it would be no licensed products for a little bit until this gets sorted out. Probable no.
Yeah.
But legally the door has been opened.
Yeah.
Panini could have leverage, possibly, not likely, to basically make it really hurt Fanatics. And what would happen in a truly competitive market? So let's put on our hats of like, how cool would this be? Could you imagine all at once, Leaf, Upper Deck, Panini,
New
Topps,
companies. We had
new companies
we had
pop up.
Collector's Edge.
Yeah.
We had Pinnacle. Most of Panini's brands used to be standalone companies.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But now they all have the license and they can all like, what makes your product like, it would be so cool. I don't think it's going to happen at all.
It was a fun time in the early 90s, early to mid 90s. I realized everything was being overproduced, but it was still a fun time.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is a possibility and a very small probability that something like that could happen. That's one of the ways it could play out. And it has something to do, I wish I could remember the verb that was used, but in the docket, the judge acknowledges there's a word that's being used, which basically means there's a precedent where you basically hit pause to figure all this out, not just keep rolling and then a ruling drops. I don't think that'll happen. The other scenario we talked out, which is way more likely, is Panini found a way to make it hurt more, which makes them more expensive for the buyout that's inevitably coming.
And here's the reality. Fanatics, and they haven't made any bones about this, they want to IPO sometime in the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. If this lawsuit's hanging over their head, they can't IPO. They just can't. So the reality is this goes from a $2 billion acquisition of Panini to a $6 billion acquisition
Triple
of
it, yeah.
Panini.
Yeah.
And then the lawsuit goes away. It's settled. But there's still going to be the possibility that somebody else could pick up that torch because this judge has said this is potentially illegal monopolistic behavior.
So in a way, does this just speed up the process of everyone else folding under Fanatics? It just gets more expensive?
I mean, it could. I think that at the end of the day, though, there's some impetus for the legal system to step in and go, okay, even though it's just in a collectibles space, we can't have a multi-billion-dollar harmful monopoly rocking things. We just can't.
Do you see it as that?
I think that to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, are there positives to Fanatics having licenses for everything? Sure.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I was very hopeful would happen with Fanatics has gone the exact opposite way. I really thought in their quest and their stated mission to expand the hobby and make it more accessible to more people, that they would start bringing some of these products into a price point that made sense for people. And that isn't happening. The prices are just going up and up. Series 1 at $130 a hobby box is insane. It's a 40% jump.
Yeah.
Like,
this feels like a broken record. I mean, we were having this exact same conversation about Panini not that long ago.
yeah, and until there's actual competition,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, like, competition breeds a lot of things.
Yeah.
It'll breed lower prices, but it also breeds a lot of innovation. Most of the things that drive our hobby now were created by companies that are no longer in business.
Yeah.
Numbered cards, Collector's Edge was the first company to really make a push with numbered cards, and every card was numbered. Now, is that like you knew what the print run was on everything, which was a big deal at the time, and maybe the print run on this card was 300,000. But 1989 and 1990 Upper Deck, it was 13 billion. So knowing that print run was a big deal in the hobby at the time. Refractors were not brought out by Topps Chrome initially. Like, that was Pacific. Pacific is who invented that. So companies that are no longer in business innovated and created things that are now foundations within our hobby.
Yeah.
And that's what competition does, not just price-wise, but it creates innovation within the market. That's a good thing.
So let's run the other scenario. So scenario 1, probably not going to happen. The door is open for everybody to get licensing because of a ruling, and this is the way to prevent a monopoly or whatever. Don't think it's going to happen, but let's talk about a scenario where there's a pause on licensed product.
Okay.
If there's some form of a cease that's upheld, right? What happens to the card market? What happens to, my opinion is everything becomes repacking. Like, what?
That will be a big part.
There
of
is
it.
no breaking, so it would have to be repacks.
There will still be products like Topps Chrome football and basketball now, and like Panini baseball now.
I don't want to live in that world. Where
Well, I
it's
don't
all
necessarily want to
unlicensed.
live in that world either. And which is why I don't think Fanatics wants that world either, because they'll get crushed if that happens. So I think that at the end of the day, while that scenario is a possibility, it's also a possibility that I lose 130 pounds in the next 6 months. It ain't likely. It's a possibility, but it's a less than 1% chance.
You think it's really like we almost were in this situation? Like we almost didn't. Well, we kind of didn't have it. Remember that 6-month window during COVID where we really didn't have pro uni uniforms? Football got pushed back like 6 months.
Yeah.
Like what? I mean, something like this would, I think, have a way bigger ripple effect on what's being put out. Like,
I mean,
I think it could last a lot longer than a couple months.
Well, no, if it were to happen, it's going to last till that trial's over, which could be years, which is why I don't think it's going to happen. Because
but if it did, what do you think would happen to the market?
Oh, I think that the value of existing licensed product would go up.
Yeah.
I think that the only thing that would be of any value whatsoever going forward would be rookies and those would lose value very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be great. It would not be great at all.
Yeah.
So, which again, Fanatics has too much skin in the game at this point to allow that to happen.
Now, Fanatics did have one of their countersuits upheld, right?
Just the one where Panini threatened employees if they left to go to work for Fanatics.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting Panini to put a win on the board at this point in the game.
No, me either.
Or a judge to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I certainly can see where they're coming from. It's just so ironic to me that Panini's hitting them with the thing that they were.
Yeah. I think the difference is Panini's saying that we had an exclusive license, but it was always time framed.
Yes.
And we had an exclusive license, but the leagues that we had a license from didn't own part of our company.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Fanatics'
they outsmarted
licenses,
them.
Fanatics' licenses are, in my understanding, in perpetuity, and the leagues own part of Fanatics.
Yeah.
So it's a complete closing the door on anything else ever happening.
Yeah. It's going to be some checks and balances put in place.
We'll see what happens.
Let's talk about what will happen if Fanatics is not hit with any of this. They dropped a little bit of info that we're very excited about, and it surprises me that I hadn't really thought through this. It seems so obvious, but well, first off, we are 1 week out from the close of the Fanatics Premier Auction for the Paul Skeens 1/1 MLB debut patch auto. It's already at $550,000. You and I originally said probably mid twos to mid threes, right?
I think mid threes is where it ends.
So, I mean, it's still got a ways to go to get there.
It's going to get there. On those auctions,
that is wild.
It may go into extended bidding for a whole day.
Yeah, it could.
It may go into extended bidding for a whole day.
But $550K right now
straight into Fanatics' pocket.
Will not buy you a Paul Skeens 1/1 MLB debut
No,
patch.
it will not.
Would you say straight into what?
Fanatics' pocket.
Straight into their pocket?
Yeah.
How convenient. It worked out really well.
Yeah, it did for them.
Allow us to sell this to ourselves.
Yeah.
Give this to ourselves and sell it to ourselves. But what they did announce was they will be rolling out NFL debut patches and NBA debut patches as early as starting this fall, right?
NBA in 2025 and NFL in 2026.
Those cards are going to be huge.
Huge. If you think that the baseball patches have gone insane,
You get them basketball degenerates in on it.
well, you get a imagine.
You know who you are, basketball collectors.
Imagine what the Jaden Daniels would have done this year.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine what that would have done.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would have been insane.
Yeah.
So Cooper Flagg's going to have one next year.
Yeah.
That's going to go nuts. Now, one of the interesting things about this, though, and I'm very interested to see how they handle this. So the baseball debut patches are put into Topps Chrome Update series.
Yep.
It's the way that they juice up that series and make it. It's how they were able to increase the price point of it, because Topps Chrome Update used to be a retail-only product. It was mega boxes only. They were $50.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Yep.
There's nothing else you could do. Well, then when Fanatics took over, they released these debut patches, and they made hobby versions. And the hobby boxes, this year's Chasing the Skeens, those hobby boxes got to $700, $800, $900 a piece before this thing was pulled. So I'm interested, because there's not a product like that for football.
No.
There's not a product like that for basketball. Are they going to put these into the main releases of those products? If so, does the price point of those products become just wholly inaccessible outside of breaking?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the interesting thing to me.
They seem to be interested. Fanatics seems to be interested in taking products that didn't for a long time have a high point of entry on price.
Right.
And trying to put some really juicy stuff in there, which will justify that 40% hike or 20%
I'm with you,
hike.
but in baseball, the patches go into a flagship type product.
Mm-hmm.
That flagship product in Topps, you've got 3 series for paper and 2 series for Chrome. The flagship products for football and basketball, they just have one product. So are they going to do an update series? Are they going to do something different with that? Is it going to go into a completely different product? And if so, is it going to hold the same value?
Yeah. Like, you're kind of going to take criticism no matter which way you go about it.
For sure.
Because you're just dropping something into the market that's such a multiplier, like such a golden ticket, right? if you want to be more fair, you could say across our licensed products and products A, B, and C,
Yes.
this will be in there. And that'll be fine as long as people hit it in the cheaper product. But the moment that it gets pulled out of a bigger product, everyone's going to lose their minds about how unfair it would be.
Sure.
That, oh, yeah, of course, only breakers can blah, blah, blah. I'm like, guess what, guys? Maybe something worth $1 million should be in a high-end product.
I agree, but man,
I want
there's
it to
something
be available.
about keeping the chase alive for everybody.
I agree with you. But I'm saying, so that just limits them, like you're saying, probably to Topps Chrome.
Yeah,
and maybe that makes the most sense. That's where it is in baseball.
Yeah.
And let's just keep it in the Topps Chrome products. But now, what was cool about Topps Chrome for decades, score some might say. Would you say that?
Yeah.
If I had to, was that this was a product that wasn't crazy expensive, but wasn't as cheap as the low end, but you could hit nice stuff out of it.
Yes.
Now it's going to be priced up.
Yeah, that's
it's not going to be accessible.
That's the concern. I think that what you suggested is the smartest way Fanatics could do it. It's going to be a Topps Chrome card, kind of like they do with the hidden gems, but they're across the whole product line.
I mean, put it in composite, put it in their version of Chronicles, but also put it in, some higher end stuff.
Yeah.
Because when that gets, so I think, and if they think about it like from like their sizzle reel, like the social impact of that, when you put that in a product and that patch looks so different from the rest of that set, people are going to lose their minds opening it because they know they hit something
and
crazy.
How good is it for Fanatics when somebody who, if you are routinely buying $50,000 cases of high-end product and you hit $1 million card, it's a big deal, but your life probably isn't super impacted by it other than saying, hey, I hit this cool card. But somebody who's, can afford to buy one blaster a month somewhere,
right?
Hits one of those cards in one of those blasters, or they save up for a couple months and buy one low-end hobby box of something, that's life-changing.
Yeah.
And that is a huge promotional thing for Fanatics,
well,
too.
Don't sell it, or Jeff Wilson will get real upset with you. I can't believe this.
That was a pretty good impression.
I know. It goes like helium when he gets mad. Somebody else got something I wanted to buy for myself.
I hate to say this, but that happens to me, too.
Really?
My voice just kicks
I
up when I get mad.
You feel that way if somebody else hits it.
No, when I get mad, my voice jumps an octave.
Mine just stays there. I'm always in that state. But it's like half anxiety, half angry at the world. You do put a smile on that, and it sounds like
super healthy.
High pitch, nasally. Yeah, you just suppress
push it all
and
down, and
then you let it overflow to the people you love the most.
Right. Because they can handle it.
That's just, or random people that don't know how to drive. They get it.
Oh, they get it.
If I drive enough, I usually get it out of my system.
Yeah.
But if you don't
Good
drive
times.
the way I expect you to, which is aggressively and out of my way, then that's.
Speaking of Jason being full of anxiety and angry at the world, you've heard me say for the last several months that sourcing on Whatnot is not a terrible idea, especially on high-end stuff. Jason has taken the dive back into trying to buy good showcase material. So he jumps on Whatnot for the first time to actually do some sourcing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in a room I always sit in on Saturday night, and I just keep getting texts. And I'm just buying the normal stuff that I normally buy. And I just keep saying, man, I got this. Man, I got this. And some of it went as planned. Some of it not so much. So I'm going to let Jason just do a Jason rant here about his first Whatnot experience, dropping a few grand and how it went.
It went. So I tried out Whatnot. We've been talking about it. If you've been following my frustrations as a seller on eBay, everybody's moving to Whatnot. This is where selling is heading. eBay is scrambling to cut fees to give good deals on their high-end stuff over $1,000, and now's the time to jump on there. So I got on. I'm trying to buy stuff at a nice price point, stuff that like on the low end is probably $50. And then I got into some bigger ones. So I get into a room. I've done my research. It's good to find, if you want the best deals, somebody that has a newer show, not a ton of people in the room at once, and they're not afraid to put up stuff that's worth more than $20, $30. So it's late night, and I start picking off some stuff, and I'm hitting like a couple case hits at like 50, 60%. I'm getting a little cocky. And the room is so excited because somebody's actually spending money. So my eBay store is the ball card store. And like every time I buy something, they're like, ball card store. I'm like, man, I get this positive affirmation.
Serotonin.
eBay doesn't do this for me. Like they're cheering me on and all I'm doing is spending money. This is great. And I'm getting stuff at like 50, 60, maybe 65%, even to the point where I get an XRC Burrow PSA 10, and they like started out at like, I think it was, they started at $750, and now like that's a card for me in Ohio where I'm like, if I get this card at 75%, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you know it, I get it.
Yeah.
And now I'm
you got it.
I'm
all
sending
right.
you guys like
so excited.
all these screenshots like I'm killing it. I murdered it, right? Next day they have a stream again. They hop on and they're selling some Bowman U packs, but I'm waiting for other stuff to come in. And I was like, nobody's bidding, so I bid on a pack. And they're like, there's an auto left. We got 2 packs left. And so I buy a pack and don't hit anything. And they're like, all right, we got to go, which was super shady because they just kept a hit. I started to feel a little uncomfortable. Started to do a little research. These guys have only sold like 100 things, and I probably bought like 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah.
Tried to shoot him a message right after that of like, hey, when you ship this stuff, like, because, you know, it's some cards worth $1,000 in there. Like, let's make sure we ship it right. And all of a sudden, my messages won't go through. Oh, that's weird. There must be a technical error. So I get on, and I was like, a couple reasons this might happen. Seller's been banned. Seller's blocked you, or you need to update your software. Well, my software was up to date. So now I'm getting worried. Now, if you do something spiteful against me, I have a really good memory of who it was, who you were connected with. I had memorized the names of the mods. So I go chasing down the mods like, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of so-and-so. He's like, oh, yeah, that's my other page. It got banned. Trying to figure out refunds or something. The or something.
It was not a
Don't
good
you
sign.
dare or something me when I just spent some money with you. So I learned that while Whatnot may be a great platform for sellers, buyers are offered little to nothing in the way of support. Spent several days saying, hey, I have a message from the guy that runs this page. Their page was banned. He is not going to ship the cards. He has not printed tracking information. Has no intention of doing that. Here's a screenshot of the messages from the moderator that also owns this other page. They're not taking care of me. What will you do? And all I get for 4 days are automated AI responses, which apparently don't listen to or look at any attachments over and over and over and over. Finally, yesterday, I got their permission to cancel an order, which was never going to be fulfilled. And in 3 to 5 days, I have my money back. Which is like a little bit over $1,000 at this point. So, yeah, I didn't have a great experience the first time buying a little.
Well, some of the stuff you bought came through, and you did really well on it.
Yeah, it's some. I don't want to play that game. Here's the thing. If there's an issue like this, that should be like, hey, we're so sorry. We see you've documented it. Boom. We've processed a refund. It doesn't take that long.
Well, again, like you said, that you're dealing with AI.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Whatnot's operations look like, but I'm guessing it's a pretty lean manpower operation.
Well, I don't know either, but as I posted about this in some Whatnot groups, like, hey, is this something I should get back quicker? Is it just take a while? Everybody's like, be prepared for this to take a long time. And then I started getting the horror stories from other buyers of like, if the seller would have even just printed the label on the last day, because Whatnot's going to do this. They're going to go back to that seller and say, hey, let's not forget about these sales because they want their fee money.
Yeah.
And if they can convince them to ship this even a week or two late, right? So some people, they get these purchases. The sellers don't do anything about it. Then they get harassed because somebody's asked for a cancellation. Then 4 days later, they're printing off the label, which could add another 12 days onto the wait time. Whatnot they already sent me a return label was one of their responses. I was like, I don't have anything to return because they're not going to ship it to me. All right, well, what's the tracking number? There's no tracking number because there's nothing that's been shipped. They're not going to ship them to me. All right, hit us up in a couple days. What?
So as all this is happening, my phone's blowing up because, Jason said,
let's just call it what it is. I will blame anybody I know for my issues.
Care about the most, you'll dump them all
my
on
friends are like, so you thought I should do what now, Gary? What the hell is this? What do you have to say for yourself? So, the moral of the story is if you're buying on Whatnot, maybe even if it's ideal, they've not been around a lot, check for some reviews.
Yeah.
Check to see how many items they've sold, right? Maybe worth checking the moderators page, because in this case, I think what happened was it was a group of teenagers that have just been throwing up like shows, and they'll get it banned and then run others. There's a little bit of a scam where over $1,000, you can print off the label, basically get access to that money in the short term, like a line of credit. They might take it back from you.
Yeah.
Or if you could sell that card for more than what you just sold it to me, like if that burrow, they're able to sell it for $900, then why wouldn't they use my $750, collect their $200, and then cancel the order? So there's some hustles out there still. Whatnot at the end of the day is going to make it right, but man, that process was
brutal for you.
a headache, And I really wanted that XRC. That would have been a nice hit, but
yeah, it happens. It's never happened to me on Whatnot. He's telling me all this. I'm like, bro, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sorry
that happened to you.
I guess it's rare.
Yeah,
but the reseller community outside of cards is saying this has been happening a lot, because with larger items, imagine you run your first show and let's say you're basically cleaning out your garage and you run all these like clothes and random items, and you do a show and you don't realize there's 200 items that you just sold. Well, shipping 200 larger items might take you a week.
Yeah.
Finding the boxes. I think a lot of people get in over their head and they're like, oh, I just can't do all this.
Yeah.
So be sure that, this person has a reputation of taking care of you.
Yep.
I will be back on Whatnot, but I refuse to spend another penny on it until my money's back
in your hands.
That was the last email I said, please refund me so I can give this money right back to you.
Yeah.
And then, hey.
There it is.
Good news. We've begun the process of the refund. All right, that's enough. You guys, I feel like I'm just the negative Nancy nonstop here.
It's okay.
I always have a rant, and it's always complaining about somebody else. But
your rants are at least healthier than mine. My rants, my blood pressure really goes up.
Yeah.
So I haven't had any for a while. You know who has had some lately?
The Yankees?
Yeah, Brian Cashman. Brian Cashman's got a real anxiety problem right now.
The
Yankees go into the season, into spring training, thinking we've got one of the best rotations in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett Cole is now getting Tommy John surgery. Luis Gil is out for a minimum of 3 months with a severe lat strain. It's to the point where they're talking about maybe trading Jason Dominguez for an arm if they can make it happen.
Yeah.
So all is not well in the Big Apple right now at all. And it's going to be interesting to see how they recover now.
And for fans, too, they're like, and Soto's out, too. The fans are picturing, everything that has changed in a very short amount of time.
There may be a little bit of light if they can get Will Warren ready to go and step in. He could be like that Luis Gil last year. Will Warren's got some nasty pitches. He's just had a little bit of control issues. Luis Gil isn't maybe as big of a loss as they think. I know he won Rookie of the Year last year, but he was bad the last 3 months and in the playoffs. He looked like he did his whole career up until the first 4 months of last year. Like the 4 months he had at the beginning of the year last year were not anything like he'd ever had at any point in his minor league or major league career. So I think we saw most of the real Luis Gil the end of the year last year. But it's interesting because you got to have pitching to succeed at the
so much so
level.
that they're maybe going to be
trading their number one prospect.
Now, this is cart ahead of the horse here, but let's say J-Dom gets traded. What markets would you be looking at?
Well, you got to look at who has expendable near arms.
You going to give the Dodgers J-Dom?
No.
They've got the arms.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to do that. The White Sox, maybe, if you could get Noah Schultz.
I imagine being J-Dom.
Oh yeah, that would be awful.
At the White Sox.
If you could get Noah Schultz,
for
Jason Dominguez, I think you do that in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to trade into Boston.
Detroit.
Detroit doesn't. Who's Detroit got at the minor league or major league level that they really want to give up?
Well, give up. They've got some arms.
Maybe Matt Manning. I guess maybe Seattle. They've got enough pitching depth across the bigs, and I would really hate to see him get rid of Brian Wu. He's the guy that a lot of teams have been targeting. They've just said no to. Mm-hmm. So the Yankees may just be sitting in a mess of their own making right now. But, as somebody who's not a big fan of the Yankees.
Yeah. Speaking of a big mess.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was done being frustrated.
NFL free agency time.
Let's head on down to NFL free agency. I'm going to kick things off on a place very dear to my heart, South Beach, Miami, the Dolphins. Miami, you've had a couple years to address a major issue. I don't know if you realize it. But you spent a lot of money on an offense. Along the way, we've decided to basically give up anybody that has proven to be effective on defense. And all the while, Tua keeps diving headfirst all season. Injuries that have piled up. You cannot tell me that Tua's injury last year did not completely throw off any ability to have a functional season for the Dolphins. It was terrible. It's affecting the locker room. Tyreek has frustrations. You don't get guys like that in there and not feed them the ball and expect them to be okay with it. So last year, my big frustration was, hey, we had a whole offseason with a lot of good veteran arms available to figure out what do we do when we've had a guy that has had concussions, had seizures on the field, missing several weeks. This is probably something that might be a reoccurring issue. And, you had all of last year to figure out, could we get a backup quarterback in there, to which we found no solution. And we even tried a few guys out, and they clearly had no clue what to do with the wizardry that is the coach and his weird offensive schemes there with Mike. So this year they have the time, surely, to take care of this problem. Just a functional quarterback, because you have offensive weapons, but should Tua go down with reoccurring injuries that many would argue should have already been career-ending, what are we going to do? And that's when Miami says, I have an idea. I know someone available right now who has proven zero capability to be a functional quarterback. Let's get them, and you know what? Let's give them one of the more complicated offensive schemes in all of football. Let's get Zach Wilson.
Yeah, he's going to love Miami, baby. There's a lot of MILFs down there. It's going to be good times for him. It's not going to be good times for you as a Dolphins fan, but he's going to have a blast.
I predict he'll be a pool boy in 2 years.
Literally, a blast.
This is going to be a disaster. This is going to be also aggressively sexual comment there. Where did that come from? You're like, this joke right here? They're going to love this. Yeah. And that came out of left field, and everybody's like, what was that?
The best part about it was it took you 2 sentences to catch up.
No, I heard it. I was hoping we could move on, and then I realized if I'm listening or watching this, I'm not moving on from that so quickly. Which makes, and it was on the tip of the tongue, which means you thought about it before, which makes it even, no, I don't, no, you're not going to make it better. You're not going to make it better, and I don't want to edit because we suck at editing. All right?
Oh, goodness.
Zach Wilson is not the answer, and it's been fun having an offense in Miami, but I predict we're about to go back to that, 2010 to 2015 era of irrelevance, because the Jets did not get worse.
That's
they got
next
better.
On our list.
Buffalo is good. The Patriots are going to eventually figure it out because they got the money to do it. They're not there yet, but they're going to figure it out. So Miami's duking it out for third place for the next few years until we get done giving Tua and Tyreek all this money, and then we'll be like, we don't have anybody.
Yeah.
And here we go again. So there's that. Why don't you pick up some more off-season moves here?
Yeah, we'll just hit a few free agents from the NFL and how their card markets could be affected by it. To follow up on what Jason said, don't go buy Zach Wilson. Just don't. There's not a price point where it makes sense. Just don't.
There are a couple free agency moves where I think it's definitely worth investing in players.
This next one is one of them, in my opinion. Part of it's a little bit of Ohio State fanboy, but part of it is seeing his progression. Mm-hmm. Justin Fields signs with the Jets on a 2-year, $40 million deal, which in reality is basically a 1-year, $30 million deal with the option. He's going to a team with a number one receiver who's one of the better receivers in the NFL, who also was his number one wide receiver in college, and he already has a relationship with. Going to a team with a really good running back, going to a team that is improved up front, going to a team that already has a pretty good defense. He's not going to be asked to be Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be asked to do what he did for the Steelers at the beginning of last year, but with much better weapons. All he did was go 4-2, throw 6-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and run for 5 touchdowns. If he can improve that by 20% and have a full season, you're talking about a 32, 33 total touchdown year where he throws for 3,500 to 3,800 yards and only throws 5 or 6 picks. The Jets may be a playoff team if that happens.
Yeah.
So,
well, remember that team they were trying to build, they thought if they could parachute Rodgers in, they were ready to go.
Yeah.
They had massive issues in
and they
chemistry
may have
and
if
all
he
that.
hadn't blown his Achilles out,
Yeah.
and then
Maybe.
it all just fell apart.
And the coaching issue was an issue.
Yeah, but boy, I don't think the coaching issue was Robert Saleh. The coaching issue was them capitulating to every demand that Aaron Rodgers had and bringing in Nathaniel Hackett.
I would argue that's a coaching issue, but
maybe, but it was the ownership driving that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
there was an issue with the coach.
Yeah.
But I agree with the Fields take. I think that one, he's still super affordable in the hobby.
You're going to be able nice stuff reasonably cheap. I just bought a flawless rookie quad laundry tag patch numbered to 3.
Yeah.
It's a SGC 10 I got it for what seemed criminal.
Yeah. Yeah, his stuff will get a quick uptick. That fan base in the hobby will be very active anytime there's excitement. But yeah, I think Fields is a good pick there on that one.
Next guy, and this is one that goes the opposite direction. I don't know what he was thinking. Sam Darnold goes to the Seahawks, who just liquidated their whole damn offense. They don't have an offensive line. They have one receiver now. And Jackson Smith-Njigba is a really good receiver, but the next guy's Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I mean, maybe Cooper Kupp ends up there, the corpse of Cooper Kupp at this point.
I don't buy into that take, but
maybe. But at the end of the day, he takes a huge step backward in the talent that's around him. How does that work? Like, to me, it's a situation that
do you think that they told him JJ's the guy?
No, I think I'm going to give you my
There
opinion.
had to be some impetus to get, something, because I think anybody looking at it would be like, really?
Well, here's my take on it. And it's a take that just comes from many years in a locker room. Watching Sam Darnold in a lot of those locker room situations, watching him in some post-game interviews, he looked like a guy last year who couldn't believe this was happening to him. He did not look like a guy who looked like finally he looked like a guy like, oh, shucks, I can't believe this is actually happening for me. That's not a guy who really, truly, at the depths of his soul, believes that he's the guy.
All this from body language is what you're saying?
Yeah. And
this is a deep take.
It is a deep take. And so if you're that guy and you think, God, I can't believe this happened to me, maybe I can't replicate this again, I better take the money right now. And Seattle threw a lot of guaranteed money at him. Money he's never going to have to do anything he doesn't want to again.
Yes, the money. Get the bag. Get paid. He's been in the league a little bit now.
But he went to a situation that anybody with a brain knows is not remotely close.
I guess
with a defensive-minded head coach.
He may not want to play the game of competing for that spot for a while. He's been through that a little bit.
Yeah, but I don't think he would have been in competition if he goes back to Minnesota. I think Minnesota wouldn't have paid him as much money, but he had at least one more year to establish, hey, last year wasn't a fluke.
With arguably the best receiver in the league.
Yeah, and Jordan Addison's no slouch.
Yeah.
And TJ Hawkinson, pretty good.
There may be a few moves coming that we're unaware of or that they're accounting for, but
the best receiver in the draft is a dude who had
what was his contract? What was the Seattle one?
It was like $90 million guaranteed. It was a lot of money.
It
was like a 5-year,
That's a lot of millions.
Yeah, it was like it was a 5-year deal. It was a big money deal. And I get it, but gosh, I don't know. I don't think it's going to go well for Sam Darnold. Devontae Adams to the Rams. At this point in his career, Devontae Adams is not really a number 1 anymore. He's going to be the number 2 to Puka, although in his head he thinks he's the number 1.
That's going to be the thing.
And so the chemistry might be really interesting there. The one thing that was really nice with Cooper Kupp there is Cooper Kupp's not an ego guy at all. So as Puka kind of established that he was the dominant guy, Cooper was okay with that. I'm not sure Devontae's going to be okay with games where he gets 3 targets.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's going to be okay with games where he doesn't get 8, 10, 11 targets.
And their offensive scheme is whoever is open.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not a good old boys club
they
there.
They do scheme things to get certain guys open more than others,
Sure.
but So I'm not sure. I'd say that one's a 50-50 thing. Devontae Adams is criminally undervalued in the hobby. You can get his nice rookie stuff pretty cheap. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer.
Do you think he's just polarizing with people at this point over the drum? Like, I think he's been let me back this up. It's been really interesting to watch Aaron Rodgers' likability go through the floor at a pace that I've never seen before for a quarterback. Don't get into it.
Okay.
I know what you're thinking. But I think Adams has been like attached to him and that drama.
I think there's part of that.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is, and I'm not going to get into it, but the
Raiders experiment was,
he was really good there.
He was so unhappy.
Well, no, he was, but it's because he went to go play with his college buddy, and then they got rid of him.
Yeah.
So he felt very deceived there.
Well, for sure.
So I don't know how that one's going to turn out. I don't think it's going to be bad, but I don't think you should expect Devontae to go for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Don't be buying up all his PSA 9 base.
No. Next, Cooper Kupp gets cut. Everybody saw that coming. They couldn't trade him. They didn't find a trade partner that was willing to pay what it would have taken to get him in trade, and I think it would have taken like a sixth. So at this point in his career, Cooper, in my opinion, he's either going to end up in Pittsburgh or he's going to end up in Seattle.
Don't say Pittsburgh. That's too dangerous.
Well, I think that Pittsburgh's where Aaron Rodgers ends up. That's my guess. Which is just going to be
him and Russell Wilson.
My wife, well, Wilson's not under contract.
Yeah,
Wilson's meeting with the Browns next week. So that's a fun one. So Cooper Kupp, we'll see where he goes.
Man, that might be the most Cleveland thing to do, would be to give a big contract to Wilson.
Well, they just traded for Kenny Pickett and told him he was going to get a chance to start.
Who did they let go of for him?
Oh, they traded DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and a 5th-round pick for Kenny Pickett. Now, Kenny Pickett, say what you will, he does have a winning record in the NFL.
Yeah.
Mac Jones to the 49ers was a really interesting thing, and I have an interesting take on it. The 49ers have cratered this offseason. They have basically said, we're not necessarily going to tear this thing to the ground, but we're going to tear it to like the middle of the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
Ayuk coming off of a blown ACL. They
Debo's
get rid of
gone.
Debo. Kyle Juszczyk is gone. Half the defense is gone. They haven't really signed anybody.
Was CMC back?
Well, he's getting like experimental surgeries in other countries to hopefully be back. Eli Mitchell goes to the Chiefs, and Eli Mitchell's really good. He just hasn't had much of a chance because he's been hurt. He's going to go to the Chiefs and be pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
So the Niners do go sign Mac Jones. I know that Mac Jones was a favorite of Kyle Shanahan's coming out of the draft.
Mac Jones.
Yeah, he was a favorite of. No, I don't. He was.
You don't know that one?
No, I don't.
Who? Mac Jones. Respect if you get that.
I don't want to know. Yeah. He was a big favorite of Kyle Shanahan's coming out of that draft in 2021.
You don't want to know that one? Is that what you
Yeah. I think this is a pressure move on Brock Purdy. I think this is the Niners saying, hey, man, you've been good for us. We're not going to sign you quite yet. We want to see what you do with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do worse with nothing than Mac Jones did with nothing in Jacksonville last year, maybe we just roll Mac Jones out there for $20 million a year.
If you're the Niners, like, hey, bud, great job coming out of nowhere for everybody and being way more than we expected. So what we've decided to do is completely strip this team down to nothing, and it's on you.
Yeah.
If I'm in his shoes, I'd be like, screw you guys.
Yeah. Well, it's the business of the NFL, though.
I hear you. That's a wild take for me.
But I think it's a pressure move by the Niners. I really do, because Mac Jones, say what you will about Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence was hurt for a lot of the year last year. Go look at what Mac Jones did with nothing in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad. He didn't win many games, but the defense was trash, and he didn't play bad.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pressure move there. That's my opinion. Last one, and this is one that we talked about a little bit beforehand, and you're going to get all fired up about it.
I'm not saying I'm going to get fired up.
Daniel Jones signs a 1-year, $15 million deal, or $15 million deal, I believe. It's either 12 or 15 with the Colts to be the competition for Anthony Richardson. Daniel Jones is going to start for the Colts this year, guys. If it's an open competition, if it's an actual open competition, Daniel Jones is going to start for the Colts this year. And if it's not an open competition, by week 4, Daniel Jones is going to start for the Colts this year. You know why?
What?
Because Anthony Richardson is not a good quarterback. I'm sorry, he is not. You cannot run an NFL team sub 60% completion rate, let alone sub 50%.
Yeah.
He was 47% last year, drilling swing passes into the ground at dudes' feet.
Yeah, that's all good and well. The problem is you're replacing a bad quarterback with another proven bad quarterback. Hold on. How many more snaps does Daniel Jones
How many
need?
more did Sam Darnold need before he got to a team with an offensive head coach that gave him a chance?
Oh, he looked like Daniel Jones? Sam Darnold looked like Daniel Jones.
In New York and in Carolina, yeah.
Like Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
He's doing Will Levis stuff all
Yeah.
day? No,
Go
stop
look.
it.
Go look.
Stop. You have lost your mind.
No, I have not.
You really think Daniel Jones
Can you
needs
guys
more
comment
snaps?
here and tell him that
Did
he's
the
wrong?
Giants have nothing? Did the Giants have nothing for him?
For the most part, yeah. Do you know how many games him and Saquon actually played together?
Daniel Jones has had enough snap. Like,
The one year where he had healthy people, he took the team to the playoffs
okay, so
and
let's
got rewarded with a big
let's
contract.
back this up to the conversation you just had a minute ago.
Okay.
Mac Jones might start. Is anybody really excited about Mac Jones?
Well, I didn't say you should be excited about Daniel Jones. I'm
Well,
just
you're
saying
just talking. You're talking.
he's not
about-
as bad as you pretend he
No,
is.
he is your new Davis Mills. For those of you that
Oh,
missed it,
stop.
this guy couldn't get enough of Davis Mills.
I was a big Davis
Could
Mills
not
guy.
get enough. He is the guy. He's this and that. And what happened? He had enough opportunities to watch to say he probably isn't that guy. And I don't know what we're waiting on for Daniel Jones. Like, it's not. He's had no. Like a lot of the guys like this. They've been either short or maybe they should have had more time in or maybe they should have had more snaps or more opportunities. Ask anybody in New York if they want to see Daniel Jones play football again. Like it's not that exciting. And for Indianapolis that deserves so much better, like I just feel like that they have a rich history of quarterbacks. Like, what are we doing here? This is not an upgrade for them.
Well, if it's an open competition, I'm telling you right, Daniel Jones is 10 times the quarterback Anthony
Sure,
Richardson is.
but Richardson's not a quarterback.
Yeah, he's bad.
You and I both agreed on that. Like, freak athlete, not a quarterback.
Yeah, he's bad.
And you have a guy that tried to stay on the sidelines. Like, him potentially snapping the ball again blows my mind. I understand you have money invested in this. You hope this happens. You don't want to admit that you made the wrong move here. But dude tried to stay out of the game.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Took himself out of the game.
I don't know that, like, is Daniel Jones an upgrade? Maybe, but, like, by
It's
what
not maybe.
degree?
Well, I mean, how much of an upgrade was Joe Flacco? Pretty big upgrade, right? From Anthony Richardson.
Hold on. We're talking about Flacco and Daniel Jones in the same conversation. I just want to make sure I understand that.
Flacco, at the point in his career, Joe Flacco's won a Super Bowl.
Joe Flacco is 10 times the quarterback.
Yes,
Daniel Jones.
I don't disagree. But what I'm saying is...
Now Flacco is a better quarterback
No,
than...
not now.
Flacco's not a better quarterback than Daniel Jones right now.
No.
You heard it here, folks.
No.
There's really nothing else to... I don't think there's anything else that could be said.
About that?
Right now, I just make sure... 2025, Daniel Jones, Flacco,
better than
one
2025
season. Who are you
Joe
picking?
Daniel Jones. I'm picking Daniel Jones because he gives me more options. We're almost done here, guys. Last thing, if you haven't yet, press that like button. Press that subscribe button. We are real close. We told you a couple weeks ago when we started hitting thresholds on some of these platforms, we were going to start doing some giveaways. We are this close on TikTok to the first one, which is 1,000 followers. This goes random. It's not big, but it's cool. Might hit a Jaden Daniels in there. Prism 2024 Blaster. We are what? 40 followers away from 1,000 on TikTok. Yeah. As soon as that happens, we are going to randomly pick a subscriber that this goes to. We will jump on and make a post about it. We'll even show you the boxes it's getting ready to go out to that subscriber. We'll send you a message if you get it so you can shoot us your address and we can get it to you. Hopefully YouTube is next and then Instagram.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Keep it going, guys. We appreciate you.
If you haven't yet followed or signed up for notifications, I'm old. I don't know what all the clicks are on TikTok, but make sure you click all the things. We were approved to begin going live, so we'll start doing that as well. We'd love to chat with you, answer any questions you have.
And we will be announcing sometime in the very near future when our first Whatnot show is going to be. We are going to be. We don't have that date exactly yet, but it will be relatively soon.
Yep. You got anything else?
I don't.
Daniel Jones is the guy in Indy, you think?
I think so.
And it's a good thing for Indy.
It's better than what they have.
This has been the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collective.
Bye now.
Peace.